guys, Rob here with Flip Market Flipper. Check it out. One of the biggest questions we get here is how do you guys ship large items? So, as you can see behind me, we have this NordicTrack ski machine. We just sold it on eBay. I am getting ready to ship it out. I wanted to walk you guys through the process that we use when we ship items. But before we do that, guys, drop me a comment below. Let me know what is your biggest obstacle with shipping. Is it bigger items? Is it insurance? Is it packaging? What is it? Drop me a comment below. Let me know. I want to know how I can help you, how we can make some more of these videos to help you guys out. So before we get started also, I want you guys to know big is like how do we ship large items? That is a relative question. This item to me is not a large item. We ship items that go on pallets and go freight. That's what our specialty here is at Flea Market Flipper. So this item will actually be able to go through FedEx, UPS. Really, FedEx or UPS are the two that we would go through. We wouldn't go through USPS. I'm going to show you how to determine the formula of how to determine when you're selling an item, how to know if you can get it through FedEx or UPS, or if it actually has to go on a pallet and it's got to ship through a freight company. So the first thing you want to do when you're selling an item, the first thing that I actually do is I clean it up, get it all nice and clean. I just wipe this thing down with Pledge. I use some bathroom cleaner on the rubber parts, got it all nice and clean. That's my trick. I love cleaning it up before we actually ship it. So I'm going to actually fold this thing up, and then I'm going to show you how to do the measurements on it to figure out the formula to know if you can ship it with FedEx or UPS. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so when you get this thing as small as you can, you always want to get the package as small as you can without taking apart a ton of nuts and bolts, stripping it down like all the way down to the bare wood, whatever it is. You don't want to go that far, but you want to get it consolidated, or that might not be the right word. You want to get it as compact as you can, because that's how shipping for FedEx and UPS, that's how they charge you. They'll charge you much more money. The bigger, the bulkier the item is and the heavier it is. So this, you can see, this NordicTrack folds up. I've done these for over 20 years. I've been shipping these. This was one of my first ships that I did were NordicTrack ski machines. We used to be able to get them so cheap and sell them for so much money and ship them back up north. So I already know this. This is like second nature to me to be able to package this thing up. I know what size box it will go into, but I'm showing you guys how to determine if this item can go FedEx or UPS, or if it's got to go on a freight. So once you get it broken down as small as you can, which I'm still going to take off that pad in the back that's all the way in the back, I'm going to pop that thing off. It'll fold down a little bit further, and I'm going to take 2 screws out of the front right here that actually will pull off the legs of the ski machine, and I'm going to wrap that stuff separately before I put it in the box. So once you have it down almost as far as you can get it, you want to take measurements on it, and you want to see what overall size box you can fit it into. Now this one, like I said, I've done a lot of them, so I know it will go into a 15 by 15 by 55 box. So, but for you, you want to measure it. You want to measure it out, make sure that you have padding around it, and it's going to fit into the box nice and tightly. And then you take the 3 measurements on it. Once you do the 3 measurements, the formula that you have to know for FedEx and UPS is it cannot be over 130 inches. Length times girth, length plus girth, excuse me. So that means the girth around it, so I'm putting it in a 15, 15, 55 box. The girth around it you have to add all this up, and it cannot be over 130 inches. For example, 15, 15, you want to double those. This is what the girth is, because you have 15 on the top. On your box is going to be 15, and then it's going to be 15 down, and then 15 down on the other side, and then 15 on the bottom. So it's really, for this one, it's 15. The formula is you have to double the 2 smaller numbers. So the 15 by 15 are the 2 smaller numbers. You double those. So it's 30 plus 30, and then plus the length, which is 55. So 30 plus 30 is 60, plus 55, what is that, 115. So that is under the 130 mark for FedEx and UPS. that is how I know this will go into a box and I will be able to ship it without having to ship it freight. So now I have to make sure this is packaged properly, which I'm going to use some bubbles. I'm going to take the parts apart that I just told you. We're going to take those suckers off. I'm going to wrap them with the bubbles, and then I'm going to wrap the whole machine with bubbles. It's supposed to, FedEx and UPS's guidelines are 2 to 3 inches of padding around the total item before you put it into the box, and then it can't slop around in the box. It can't flip around. It's got to be in there nice and tight. So that's what we're going to work on right now. I'm going to break the sucker down all the way, and then we're actually going to throw it in the box, and I'll show you the whole process. So before we do that, I did notice on the handles, I'm actually going to wipe those down one more time because I missed some spots on the ropes of the handle. So we'll wipe those down, pull the sucker apart, and then you guys can watch the whole process. So yeah, you always want to make sure before you package an item that it is clean as you can get it. You want the buyer to be happy with the item. So that's why, like I said, I wiped it down with Pledge. I use that bathroom cleaner. I use that for a lot of stuff because it takes off grease. It takes off a lot of stuff. So now it's all set. I'm going to start breaking it apart, and then we will actually start wrapping it with bubbles and get it thrown into a box. Okay. For NordicTracks, you got to pull the skis off. We got to wrap those separately and stick them in the box because you don't want them to bang. Anything that you put into a box that can bang around, you want to make sure that it's packaged with bubbles so it won't bang, it won't scrape, it won't do that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm going to take all the loose stuff off. The skis are loose. We're going to pull those off. We'll wrap them with bubbles and then throw them in the box beside the machine. Same thing with the legs. We're going to pull the legs off. We'll wrap those. We'll stick them into the box. This is all not that hard of stuff to actually put back together. Like I said, you don't want to take... I could break this machine all the way down to the original manufacturing specs on it or how it came originally. I could do that and get a lot cheaper shipping, but the problem is when the person who's buying it sees it like that, they might be upset that you broke everything down. So that's why we don't do that. We try and take it down as low as we can without it being like impossible to put back together. So without an owner's manual, I should say. Sometimes you don't have a choice to get something shipped. You're going to have to break it down a lot more. In that case, I try and find an owner's manual online, instructional manual that will show the person how to put it back together. I copy that, I print that off, and then I put it in the box so I can help people out. If you do ever have to break it down that far, this one I know I don't have to. Like I said, it will break down enough where I can get it small enough to fit into a box, and then it will go. It will be able to ship through FedEx or UPS. So that's all I'm doing for this. Just taking off bare minimum that I have to, package it properly, throw it in a box, and that's it. So, but these, like I said, I didn't wash these, or I didn't wipe these down either. So I'm gonna wipe those down before I actually get them ready to go. Yeah, you always want as much as you can clean it. I mean, that's what we do. We try and get it as clean as we can. I even put, when I listed this, I listed it that it has minor scuffs, scratches, and scrapes. We do that for all of our listings just because I want to under-promise and over-deliver. I want the buyer to get this expecting it to have scratches and scrapes on it, which it's a nice machine. It doesn't really have any, but I want the buyer to get it and be happy and excited about what they got. So that's why we always under-promise and over-deliver on our on the stuff that we sell on eBay. All right, beautiful. that one is ready. Let's take the front off. Now, I have to take these off because this spreads out bigger than the box. I think this is like 18 or 19 inches. If I pull them off, there's just 2 screws in the front. I pull those off, wipe this thing down, and then it'll fit into the smaller box. That's why I'm taking the front, and I'll show you once I get it off. Always put the bolts back in where you can, so you don't send them a bag of bolts that they don't know where they go. If you take a couple pieces off, you want to send it back to them so they don't have to question where the bolts go or anything like that. So I try and thread the bolts back in with the part off, just so people know exactly where they fit. And then I'm going to wipe this thing down too. But you can see how the spread on this is over 15 inches. It won't fit in the box with this thing on there, but there's only 2 bolts right there holding it on. So it's very simple to stick it back on there. It's not a big deal. We'll take that off. Put that on the ground. Now, like I said, this pad, I have to get this to fold down. The top's too tall how it is, so I have to get it to fold down. And I haven't shipped one of these in a while. I don't remember if I have to actually take these poles off. I don't think I do. I think once I take this pad off, it'll go down far enough in there where it will go down to the 15 inches I need it to be on, and it will be just fine. Like I said, we used to ship a ton of these NordicTrack ski machines. These are great money makers. Okay, so now I have to check and I want to wipe this off as well. I haven't taken this off, so I want to wipe this down so it just looks nicer. But now I have to check the height again. And it's looking like I might actually have to pull off the chrome piece so it'll fit in the box. So it will fit in the 15 by 55 or 55 box. Yeah, and that is super, super tight. So what I'm going to do is loosen this piece off. I'm going to slide this off, and we're going to ship that one. I'm going to package that. I'll throw it in the box, and then he can slip it back on there and do it how it's supposed to be when it needs to be reassembled. And I have 2 options here. I really could leave these 2 together and pull it off down there. And I'm just trying to decide if I should do it like that. But I can pull the other silver piece off. I can pull that off, leave those 2 together. Which, while I'm talking, I think that might be a smarter idea. Because that will be tight. But you also want it in the box where it's not going to be loose. It's not going to be where it can't jiggle around. So being tight is not a bad thing either. And I just remembered something. I'm not going to take the bottom piece off because there's actually a cable that goes from the bottom to keep track of speed and resistance. It goes up through that metal piece. While I'm walking through this, I just remembered that. So I don't want to take the bottom off. I want to do it just like I have it right now. Then that way when he gets it, he just slips the top back onto it, and then it'll go back together. Everything else will set right back up for him. Bolts the front on, bolts the pad on, it'll be all right. So I'm going to leave it just like that. Now we're going to pull some bubbles out, and we're going to start bubble wrapping everything up, and then we'll throw it in the box, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, we'll keep on moving forward. All right, so you can see all the different things that I have to there's a little plastic piece that's popping off here, so I wanted to try and make sure I get in the right spot. All right, so you can see all the pieces that we have to wrap. You really can. They're sitting here in front. But we have to wrap all these separately in bubbles, and then wrap the whole machine itself into the bubbles so it can't get damaged in shipping. Like I said again, when you're using FedEx or UPS, their standard practice that you have to do when you're packaging is it's got to be 2 to 3 inches of padding around the item, so it can't. If the box gets dropped, that padding, which is bubble wrap, peanuts, you can use peanuts for lighter things. This is going to be a little bit heavier, so I couldn't do packaging peanuts unless I combined it with bubbles. But you have to have 2 to 3 inches of padding around the item when it's inside the box, the corrugated, the cardboard box. It's got to be that way to protect it from anything happening through shipping. So that's what we're going to work on right now. We're going to wrap it with thicker bubbles. They sell 2 types of bubbles, a really little bubbles, which are not as thick as the larger bubbles. And this is what we use. This is the larger bubbles, and it suffices for packaging. A lot of these we usually do 2 rolls, 2 packaging wraps around the item that we're doing, and that suffices for the thickness that you have to have, 2 to 3 inches. So I'm probably going to start off with the little items first, and then we'll jump on to the big one. Now, like I said, we use these bubbles. We buy these locally. You can buy these online on Amazon. You can buy them from a local box store if you have it, or packaging store. But we buy ours from U-Haul. Any usually storage facility that sells boxes, they'll sell the materials to do this too. We buy these. I think I get 100 foot of it for 20 bucks. I probably could buy it cheaper off Amazon or eBay or something like that, but I can drive right in when I need it, and I get it from U-Haul, and we use it that way. So that's what we do. And then also the boxes. Now, back in the day when I used to ship these, I got them from a box store is where I would buy these, and they actually sold the box, the 15 by 55 box. U-Haul does not. They sell a 15 48. So what I'm going to do, it just keeps it a little bit more protected. I'm going to do 1 box. We'll load it down inside 1 box. We'll leave the top flaps up on it, and then I'll actually throw everything on top of the NordicTrack. We'll put it in the box like that, and then I'm going to do the second box, and I'm going to thread it down over top of it. So it's going to be really, this is a double corrugated box. It's a double wall box, so it's really going to be like a 4 wall box once it's done, because it's going to have the NordicTrack in this. This is going to fit over top of it, and it's going to overlap it. So it's going to be way, way more protected and secure, especially if something happens, if it gets damaged. This will be protected by insurance because it's packaged properly, and it's got really it's over-packaged properly, so it will be covered by insurance. We always insure all of our items. Let me save you from a lot of heartache, a lot of problems. When you're shipping FedEx or UPS, always insure the item for what it's sold for, and so if something does happen to it, you're covered on it. We tell everybody that. That's what we teach at Flipper University. You never want to ship something, FedEx or UPS, or even USPS as well. Anytime you're shipping something, always pay the couple dollars extra to have it insured. That is a protection that is well worth the money spent. So, all right, let's get back to work. The other thing we use is a tape gun. You can buy 2-inch tape. We buy actually 3-inch tape, so it's thicker. It works a little bit better. So that's how we do it with a 3-inch tape. So, all right. All right, the pad's wrapped. The biggest part about this pad, it's pad anyways, it's gonna go on top, but the biggest part is the metal piece that bolts in. So you wanna wrap that. And I did the double side on this one. So that's gonna sit on top of the box once the NordicTrack's in there. I don't really have to worry, like I said, it's padding. I don't really have to worry about the sides or anything like that. You could do one more wrap around it, but I know it's gonna be protected in there, so it should be just fine. So the next thing is the monitor. This was on top. I already pulled this off. The monitor in these pieces, this is the part that plugs into that silver piece I told you about to monitor the speed and stuff. And it's actually got a little clip to clip onto your finger or your earlobe to give you your heart rate. So I'm going to wrap this pretty good inside of some bubbles. And then, yeah, make sure it is packaged good. And this one you can use, I use more than less on bubbles on this one. Just because you don't want it to get damaged. So that's it, the monitor, and like I said, there's 2 or 3 wraps on that. That's perfectly fine. It's gonna go in there on top as well once we put the machine in there. That one's set. The next one are the legs and the pieces for the legs that actually snap them into place. I'm actually gonna put those in so there's no confusion of where they go. And then I'll wrap the bubbles around this nice and tight. So those can't fall out. So that's those. The legs are fine like that. Nice and tight. That piece can't come out of them. Next we'll do this one. And this one I'm just gonna wrap around it and we'll do one roll around the whole thing. This is just heavy. You just wanna make sure it doesn't puncture anything in the box. So that's that one, the bar on the front, wrapped in there nice and tight, nothing showing. That'll be good for the packaging. Next, we're gonna do this one. And all I'm gonna do is run the roll around it, do it nice and tight, and then maybe do one more at the top and one more at the bottom. So it's nice and tight. And yeah, it's ready to go. Perfect. All right, so that's that one, guys. Check it out. That's the piece. This one will be good. We'll stick it right down in the box through that one once it's ready to go in. And that's it. So our parts are done. The last thing is the machine, and then we drop it into the box. So this one, what I'm going to do is wrap one little thing of bubble around this. Just around this piece right here. I want to put it nice and tight so it can't bang. And then the rest of it is just going to be one whole wrap around it, and then one or two around it this way again. Like I said, that's the safest way to do it. So I think that's what we'll do. All right, we're good with that. Okay. All right, so that's the first round. And you know what? I think I'm going to just wrap one the other way on the other side, and then we'll tape it all together. And that'll be quicker than having to keep wrapping it. So I think I'm gonna roll it out. Like this. Now I just want to put a couple pieces of tape all around it to connect the bubbles so it can't slide off on the front or the back. Now you guys can see in some places this is like 4 or 5 bubbles around it. So if this does get dropped, damaged, whatever it is, it will 100% be covered. And that's what we try and do. We've had stuff damaged before and not packaged properly back in the day when I started doing this, and we've learned our lesson. So now we kind of make sure all of the proper precautions are in order before we ship something so we don't get screwed. All right, guys, that's it. Everything's packaged. Always look around once you get it all set up. I mean, all your packaging done. Make sure that you're not leaving out any pieces. That's what I'm looking, and I am leaving out. I just forgot the skis. So that's why you always want to do that. Check that out. I'm going to do the skis next. We'll get those ready, and then we'll set up our box and throw everything inside. And I'm trying to decide if I want to wrap these separately or wrap them together. And I think I'm going to wrap them separately, just so I can maneuver them in the box to create or to fill up void space. So I don't have to have them really tight together, and I think it'll go easier. So we'll go ahead and roll this out. All right, one ski, and we did the bubble wrap over further than it was. We folded it down, and then we wrapped it around so the ends are protected really well, and then just wrap the whole thing around like that. So one ski is done. And let's do the second. home stretch. Box, throw it all together, and then we are ready to go. So let's get it going. And this thing's probably gonna weigh, I don't know, 50 pounds, 60 pounds once it's all packaged and put in here. So I try to, when I'm doing the box, I try to make sure I have enough tape because that end right there is gonna hold the weight. The top end is gonna be the same way. You wanna have more than enough tape. A lot of times I'll only do 3 runs of tape on the bottom, but you want to have it definitely overkill on this because it's going to be a heavier box, so you want to make sure that it will hold the weight. So, all right, the fun part. Let's get it all in there and see what we can do. I think I'm going to drop it in the other way so we have more room at the other end. All right, let me show you how it looks once it's in here. I can't do it. There's some space in there, some space that we need to fill up. So that's the good part. We got all the rest of this stuff. I'm gonna go on with the skis first because those are the longest. Now we're going to throw these other parts in there. Like I said, you don't want anything bouncing around. So you want it in there nice and tight where it's not going to bounce when it's being transported. All right, that's good. All right, we're good, guys. Let's see if I can get you a good look at it. That's it. It's in there tight. I probably should, and I got some styrofoam over here. I'm going to cut a little bit of styrofoam to put into here. You see these skis stick up further than the rest of it. So I'm actually going to put some styrofoam on here to fill this void so this stuff won't bounce around. Because I can only go, I'm going to cut the box down a little bit right here. I can only go that high with my other box, so I'm going to put a little bit of cardboard in there to keep that from bouncing around. All right, you can see it's popping out of the top here, nice and tight. I'm going to actually do this last box. We'll fit it over top of it. Before I tape the last box, piece of advice, don't just try and open it up and do it so the air, if you tape the top before you stick it on there, the air it's hard to get it down there nice and tight. So I'm gonna do it with the top open. I'm gonna see if I can get it to force down. And sometimes a trick, if you guys can pinch one of the corners once you get it started, if you pinch one of the corners, it will help it go down smoothly because these are the same exact size boxes. So once you get it started going, it usually goes pretty good. Like I said, guys, I'm just pinching these corners and flipping them in so it makes the bottom box a little bit smaller. And then it'll make this one slide down easier. And remember, this second box is all extra stuff that doesn't have to be done, but it will protect it better, and that's why I'm doing it. And that's as far as I can get it down right now. I should have trimmed the sides off. You know what, I might try and do that real quick. I should have done that before I did it. I should have trimmed the flaps off because I forgot I trimmed these. No, I'm going to flip the whole thing over, I think. So I'll tape this up. I'll flip it all the way over. And then I'll trim off the extra. And I can't get it to go down much more. But that's okay. We'll trim a little bit of it off. You see my tape here. Actually, I'm going to trim a little bit of it off. I'm going to flip it back over and see if I can get it to pop down just a little bit more. Because I'm 1 inch over right now, and I know I still have an inch on there. And don't, this isn't a beauty contest, guys, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about that. Like I said, you can see my cuts aren't perfect. Once I'm done with this, I'll actually flip it back over one more time once I get it as tight as I can get it. And then we'll actually tape the bottom, tape all this stuff on the bottom. So, but like I said, every little inch counts when you're shipping bigger stuff, so you want to make sure you get it down to every little inch that you can take off of it. Perfect. So I actually got it down 1 whole inch below. So it's at 54 by 15 by 15. So that's perfect. Now I'm going to flip the whole thing back over, and I'm going to flip the whole thing back over. We'll do that last row of tape on the bottom side. Hold it extra tight. The whole thing is encased with 2 double corrugated boxes. The last thing for me to do is actually to weigh the sucker. I already know the measurements. Weigh the sucker, create the label, and then it's ready for FedEx or UPS to pick it up, whoever I use, or I can go drop it off at the location and it's ready to go. So that's it, guys.